So today we are going to do aggregate functions. We have this table in front of us. This is admission table. It contains admission number, name of student, father's name, mother's name, address, contact number, and the mode of transport. See, aggregate functions are those functions which work on multiple rows together and they give you a single answer after manipulating the multiple rows. There are 5 major aggregate functions: count, sum, min, max, average. 5 main aggregate functions which are in your course. Count function is used for counting total number of rows in a table, and for implementing the count function in our queries we write like this: select count star from the name of the table. Please see, it has given us 5 rows total, so count is giving us one output. This one output is obtained after working on all the rows which are there available in the table. So aggregate functions are those functions which are working on multiple rows and giving you a single answer after working on those multiple rows. So first example was count. So this is giving us total number of rows. Now second is sum. Let us see sum. Now the functions like sum and aggregate, average, they work only on numeric fields. Yes, because we can find sum and average only of numeric fields. But as we can see in our table, right now we are not having a numeric field inside our table. So let us first insert a column. I am using alter table command. Alter table, the name of the table. Okay. Add, and I am adding fees, and I am making it say integer, semicolon. It has added a column fees in our admission table. Now let us see. The fees column is added. We have not given any value inside the fees, so default value it is taking is null. So we are going to now write update command, because I want to insert certain values inside the records. For the fees field I am going to use the update command. So update the table name, set fees is equal to, say I am giving fees as 500. I want to give fees for various modes, so I will give fees according to the modes. Say for mode is equal to van, we can say it is saying match 2 records, because there were 2 vans in our table, so it has updated the fees field for those 2. We can see it here. We can see it here. It is giving 500 in the 2 values of the van field. Now next I want to set fees as 700, where our mode is bus. Okay, so now it has changed 1, because the mode was bus, it has affected 1. Now for the self students there is no transport fees. So here let us, fine, I am not doing anything. I am setting the fees to null only for all those who are in self mode. So I have left null value in the table. So there are 3 varieties with us. We have null value, we have value of the fees of van users, value of the fees of bus users. You can see we have updated the field now. Now we are going to start applying sum. Let us add So here select sum and I am going to write the field inside the bracket, the field whose sum I want, from admission. It is giving me 1700. We can check this 1700 because it is adding 7 plus 5 plus 5. It is not taking into consideration the null values. Yes, it is not adding the null values. This point is important for you to observe because aggregate functions ignore the null values. Null values are not given any importance by the aggregate functions. Now if I want to find average, now let us see how will the average function work. Obviously, like sum, the average function also works on the numeric fields. So I have replaced this sum by average. Now let us see what average will it give me. It is giving me 566.66. Now let us observe how it is calculating 566.66. Let me open the calculator and show. See, total which was coming was 1700, and let us see how many records are there, because average is generally counted as the total divided by total number of rows. So यहाँ पर I can see 1 2 3 4 5 rows were there. So let me divide 1700 by 5. It is giving me 340, but the average which has been shown on the screen is 566.666. Now I will repeat this action again, repeating this action again, and let us see how is it going to give us. I want 1700 divided by, I am going to ignore the null values. How many records are left after ignoring the null values? 3. So now this time I am dividing by 3. Have we got the answer? 566. So this shows you that the aggregate function is ignoring the null values. It is not taking the records which have null values. This is another example for you to remember that aggregate functions do not consider null values, and whenever you are finding an average, it is ignoring the null value rows and it is picking up only the 3 rows which had valid values. These type of output questions come in the exam to test whether students know how the null values are treated by the aggregate functions. Fine. Now sum, average, and next is min and max. This is a simple operation where we are finding the minimum value from a particular field, we are finding the maximum value from a particular field, minimum and maximum value. Now if I apply this minimum and maximum on my text, it is going to arrange the or pick up the things according to the alphabetical order. Yes. If I apply this minimum and maximum function on date type fields, see, in the minimum it is going to pick up the oldest date, and in the maximum it will pick up the latest date. So generally questions for minimum and maximum are given in the exam, and bracket के अंदर instead of the numeric field or the text fields, they prefer to check you on the date fields, so that the children get to think which date is the maximum, which date is a minimum. So minimum date is the oldest date and maximum date is the one which is the latest date. Okay, so we have understood what are aggregate functions. They work on the group of records and they give us a single value after evaluating the group of records. Now I can put conditions on the aggregate functions. Before I go for the conditions, I have to show you one more thing. I am writing a command. Instead of star in front of count, I am writing fees. I have written the field called fees. I want to count the values which are in the field fees. And as we have already seen that aggregate functions ignore the null values. So the output of count with the fees field in its bracket is going to return us 3, because there are 3 not null values inside the fees column. At the same time, if I give count star, I give a star parameter inside count, it is going to return me 5, because star is picking up the complete row in one go, and when I put a field inside my bracket, it is picking up only those particular values of the fields. So this is the difference, and this difference is very commonly asked in the questions. It is very commonly asked in the questions, why count fees is giving you 3 and why count star is giving you 5. When I am writing count fees, it is going to check valid values from the fees field. It is going to count only the valid values for the fees field. And when I am writing star, it is counting all the rows of the table. It has nothing to do with the null right now, because we have mentioned star in the bracket in the count. Okay. Now I want to count all the rows of the students whose mode of transport is bus. So I have applied where condition where mode of transport is bus. I wanted to count the total number of records. So it has counted how many bus travelers are there, and it is giving me the total number of rows for the bus travelers. I am putting condition. Similarly, if I want to find sum of the fees for all the transports where mode is van, so it is going to count for van. There were 2 van people and the total was 1000. It has given me only for the van total. So we can put conditions along with the aggregate functions like this. Now my next requirement is, I do not want individual sum or individual values to be printed. I want it to give me a complete table for all type of modes. Now look at this command very carefully. I wanted to print the mode and how many elements are there or how many records are there for that mode from admission, group by I want to count on the mode. See, it is giving me the mode and it is giving me how many rows are there in that particular mode. Van, there were 2, self, there were 2 students, bus, there was 1 student. So please see, in my one command, it is returning me the counting for each of the modes. This is the use of group by clause. When we are grouping on a particular field, it is grouping all the common values of that field and it is performing aggregate function on those common values. Here I wanted to perform counting on the common values, so I have written the count method. Supposingly I want to find sum of fees for each mode. I want to know for each mode how much fees is being charged. So instead of count star, I replaced with sum fees. Please see, it is showing me van 1000, self, null, bus 700. Yes? So it is picking up as the modes are appearing. It is picking up, first it saw van, so it picked up the common values of all the vans, and which aggregate function we wanted to perform, sum of the fees. So it picked up the fees of the first van, it picked up the fees of the second van, and it gave you a combined answer for van. Then next element which was coming was self. So it grouped the common values of the self fees and it gave you the sum of the self, that is null only. And then it is picking up bus and it is searching whether there is another common element of the bus. It was not there, bus was only one row, so it is giving you the single value of that, that is 700. So have you understood how you can group on common values and what is group by doing, how to understand whether your question requires grouping or not? What will be the question for this type of query? We want to find sum of each mode of transport, sum of fees of each mode of transport, or the question can be we want to count number of students mode wise. So mode wise for each mode of transport, these are some keywords which will make you know that group by is supposed to be applied here, because it wants the common values of that particular column to be grouped and answer to be given, generated according to that group. Remember, when we are applying group by clause, we use aggregate functions only. You apply aggregate functions on the groups. So when you are grouping, you are going to have only two type of displays. One is the field on which we are grouping, another is the aggregate function which we are going to apply on that field. So when you are applying a group by clause, always remember it is going to have the mode, means because this was the field on which we had grouped, and which aggregate function we want to apply. Only these two things are going to come along with the select when we are applying group by clause. Yes? If we write a field on which we have not done the grouping but still we are writing, it is going to give us an answer which is going to be wrong. See, because when we are, supposingly I want to print the name of the student and I want to group on mode, but it is not that only Rahul is going with the van. There is another student called Ashima, she is also going in the van. But when we are going to display the non-grouped field along with the group query, it will show me only the first occurrence of this field. So answer will be wrong. Rahul is not going to pay 1000 rupees, or Rahul is going to pay 500 only. The another student was there which is paying 500, but the name of another student will not come. Why? Because the student name was not grouped. So ungrouped field, if you display along with the group query, it will give you a wrong answer. Right? If in exam by chance such kind of output query come, you can, definitely you have to mention the output. So I will display how the output will come. If I supposingly write here S name was student name, but we had not grouped on the student name. Our grouping field was mode and our aggregate function was sum. Please see, it has picked up that Rahul is paying 1000 rupees, Megha is null, Rishabh is 700. Rishabh is 700 to theek hai, because only there was one bus traveler. Rahul is paying 1000, but Rahul is not paying 1000, Rahul was paying 500. it was Ashima who was paying 500, that is why clubbing them came out as 1000. But my answer got inconsistent because I joined non-group field with the group field. Because in CBSE sample paper there was a mistake in the grouping query. They had asked for the output and they had placed a non-group field along with the grouping query. So what to do in such kind of situation in the exam? Output आप दो, you can write the first occurrence of that particular field जो non-group वाला है, बाकी it is going to be the same, but you can always write that it is going to be a wrong output because you cannot apply non-group field along with the group query. Okay. So this is the use of group query. You have to remember, if I want to perform group, how will I understand in the question that I want to perform class wise counting of number of students, or if I want to find average percentage of each section of a class. Such kind of questions are coming for a student table supposingly. So that will make you understand that it expects you to group on a common value of that particular field and perform the aggregate function. Now last thing in this group we are going to see is how we can apply condition on the groups. For example, I am writing a query here. I want to find the sum of each mode, but only for those students or only for those modes whose number of students are more than 1, means only for the modes for where number of students are more than 1 I want to find the fees. Now let us see what is it giving us. It has shown us only van and self. It has not shown bus, because in bus there was only one student who was going. So if I have to apply condition check on a group, we do not use where clause, we use having clause. Having clause is used for placing condition when we are grouping on a particular field. So what will this having clause do? It is going to apply this check on the mode on which you have grouped. So this grouping, this aggregate function is also working on the field on which grouping is done. This aggregate function is also going to work on the field on which grouping is done. So in group by, major points to be remembered are that having is used for performing conditions on the groups, and when you are writing fields along with the select, you should not write a non-grouped field, you should always write a group field जिस पे grouping करी है and the aggregate function on which you are grouping. So this was our group by clause and I hope it is going to be useful for you. Thank you.